Welcome to the Executive Coach for Moms podcast, where we support women who are attempting to find balance and joy while simultaneously leading people at work and at home. I'm your host, Leanna McGrath, former tech exec turned full-time mom, recovering perfectionist and workaholic, and certified executive coach. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am really excited because last week we wrapped up the summer series, and this week we're kicking off our fall series. And fall is my favorite season of all. We actually moved back to the Northeast, and there were two reasons why we wanted to move back. One was family, and the second was fall. I love it. The leaves are starting to change. I just love this time of year. And this fall, I have decided that the theme for our fall episodes is going to be taking care of yourself. I had thought about calling it the self-care series because that has a nice ring to it and it sounds more catchy, but I don't really like the term self-care. I feel like it's gotten like a weird connotation with it. When I hear self-care, I think of like a bubble bath or a massage. And when I think of taking care of yourself, I think more of like what we have to do as adults, the responsibilities that we have to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves. So that's what this is about, because I know that so many high achieving, ambitious women, especially moms, are doing everything for everyone else. And then somehow there's just nothing left for us. It's like our own care ends up being at the bottom of the list, or let's be honest, it doesn't even make the list often. And so when we think about taking care of ourselves, there's some basic things we need to be doing, like going to our annual doctor's appointments, paying some attention to what we're putting into our bodies and exercising and lowering our stress levels and things like that, that are just for our own longevity and quality of life. How long we're going to live, and then what those years are going to be like for us. Are we going to be able to enjoy them, or are we going to be full of anxiety and stress, or our bodies so worn down that we can't really enjoy the time that we have here? For me, at least, these are much bigger concerns in my 40s than they were in my 20s or 30s, because we're hitting midlife and it's kind of like, okay, I've got to kind of think about the long game here. I could have my foot on the gas and flooring it on this game of life in my 20s and much of my 30s, but then it kind of became a question of like, is that the way that I want to continue to operate? And I often use the metaphor of, that we're running a race and we're doing it at a sprint speed. And then at some point in our maybe late 30s or early 40s or sometime in our lives, we realize I'm running a marathon. This is not a sprint. This pace is just not sustainable. So for all of those reasons and so many more, I hope that it is helpful for you. So the first thing that I want to talk about, because whenever I was thinking about what do I want to make sure that an executive mom knows about taking care of herself, I think the first thing I want you to know is that you are worthy of care, and not because you finished your to-do list, not because you hit every goal, not because you made it to some invisible finish line where you've decided, oh, now I can take care of myself, but because you're a human and because we are all worthy of care, and having needs is part of being human. I know that there are a lot of things that keep us from taking care of ourselves, and I want to talk about some of those, as well as talking about some of the ways we can counteract those. Because at first I had a whole list. There are a million different reasons why we don't take care of ourselves. And I thought, I don't really want to just list all of these out because everyone's going to agree, right? You're going to resonate with all of them. But I also just want to provide some reframes or opportunities for shifts to maybe think about it a little bit differently. But I do think the awareness is important because, if you're just going and going and going all the time, of course, you're not stopping to think about, why am I not taking care of myself? That's not really even a thought. You just kind of, you just believe the reasons that your brain offers whenever you think, oh, I should set up that appointment or I should take a day off. And then your brain says, like, no, here's the reasons why you can't do that. So let's talk about those. First is social and cultural conditioning and what continues to get reinforced as girls and as women. For so many of us in our culture and our society, we were raised to believe that being selfless is a good thing and that being selfish or self centered is bad. And you see so many people, especially girls and especially women, praised for sacrificing, rewarded even, both implicitly and explicitly. But it's like, oh, look at her. She is really taking care of everybody else. She is really sacrificing herself. And it's like she's pointed to as that is what we should aspire to. If you had a martyr mother who, always told you how much she sacrificed for her kids, these are the kinds of things that we grow up with and that become internalized in our brains and in our bodies. And we just believe that that's the way that it should be, that there is like a hierarchy, that selfless is good, is better, higher on that hierarchy. And we should strive for putting other people's needs and wants and desires before our own. That's a good thing. And at the bottom, the bad part is whenever we are selfish. I mean, have you ever heard selfish in a positive context? Like, she's so selfish. That's not usually a compliment. So we kind of have those values and expectations drilled into our minds throughout our childhood and then into our adulthood. What I would offer here is that being resourced, having your needs met, actually allows you to give more generously and also more sustainably. The better that you're cared for, the more you can pour into others. And I think so many of my clients who are struggling with this, who are always putting everyone's needs before their own and not meeting their own needs and not taking care of themselves, a lot of times the bridge to get to a place where they can really focus on their own needs is to understand that when I focus on my needs, when I make sure that I have what I need and that I'm feeling sufficient, that I show up better for everyone else. I mean, think about when you've had a really good night of sleep. It might have been a long time ago if you've got little ones, but when you have a great night of sleep, think about how you show up that next day and how it's different from if you were up all night with a baby or with your toddler or with your children. It's so different, right? Because you have more capacity. You have more of an ability to respond rather than react. And when we're tired and depleted, that's whenever we get snappy and mean, right? We don't show up the way that we want to show up. And that can be from sleep. That can be from food, not having enough nutrients in our bodies. That can be from just being like completely touched out. That can be from so many different factors. But essentially what it boils down to is that we don't have our needs met. And when we don't have our needs met, we don't show up as the best version of ourselves. So I think it's so important to reframe that idea that we have to put everyone else's needs first to, I need to put my needs first so that I can meet everyone else's needs, right? I need to take care of myself so that I can show up better for my kids, so that I can show up better for my partner, so I can show up better for my coworkers. And not that that's the end goal. The end goal is that we show up better for ourselves because we have that desire. But I think, like I said, kind of that bridge is really to think about that if we want to show up better for other people, we need to take care of ourselves. The second reason why we do not take care of ourselves is because of time and guilt. So this is why it feels impossible. Because the story goes, There's never enough time. That's what we say to ourselves all the time. I don't have time for that. How many times have you said that today, even? I think it's important to notice when we tell ourselves this. And when I do carve time out for myself, I feel guilty. I feel like I'm taking away from other things that I could be doing that are in service to other people. So, like, for example, if I take a night off work, that's work that I could have been doing to, get closer to my promotion or to support my team or to take care of my customers, right? If I decide to go have me time, whatever that might be, maybe it is a bubble bath or a massage, but maybe it's just going for a workout or going for a drink or a coffee with a friend. When we carve that time out for ourselves, a lot of times we feel this guilt because we're like, man, I work so much. I should spend all my time that I'm not working with my kids. And so then we feel guilty. So it's almost like we already believe that there's not enough time and we believe that story. And then whenever we do actually take some time for ourselves, we feel terrible the whole time, or maybe we enjoy it, but then we feel terrible afterwards. And so then we're like, well, it's not even worth it because it wasn't recharging. It wasn't refreshing. It didn't really do anything for me. I should have just spent the time with my kids or working or catching up on emails. So I think that this is a similar reframe, but I really, really believe that every minute and every dollar that you invest in yourself multiplies back to your family, to your team, to your relationships. Every time we invest in ourselves, it's not time taken away from something else. It's not money taken away from something else. It might look like that on a spreadsheet, right? Where you reallocate some funds to a girls' trip or to just investing in a program or an experience that you know is going to help you to show up better instead of maybe something else for your kids or for your partner or for someone else that you love. And so you think like, oh, I look at these numbers and I'm taking away from that. And whenever we believe that, then it makes it really hard to do. But if we looked at that, just like we look at things when we're making strategic decisions at work and we looked at the ROI, which feels really intangible, but we know that the ROI of investing in ourselves means that we can give so much more back. It's not just that we take that away, the ROI is so much higher. It's time and money that returns value to everybody around you, your kids, your partner, your friends, your family, and your team. The third reason is beliefs that we have about needs. And I'm going to dive further into needs next week, but this is why we devalue them, why we devalue our needs. Because I think many of us believe, maybe not explicitly, but like, there's maybe a secret belief that being low maintenance and not having a lot of needs makes us stronger, makes us more independent, makes us a better employee, makes us a better partner, more lovable, more likable. We think that not needing anything is a badge of honor. Just like I said about selfish, like, have you ever heard someone say, she's so needy, and that meant something positive? So we don't want to be needy. We like to be independent. We like to be able to take care of ourselves. And certainly, especially I think at work, we don't want to ask for anything at all because we don't believe that we should have needs at work, that we should have any needs beyond what is already kind of accounted for and expected. And so whenever we have a need, we try and talk ourselves out of it. Like, "Ah, I don't really need that, or I can figure it out." So instead of advocating for our needs, instead of going to HR and saying, I need this extra time off, or I need additional resources, or I need an assistant, or whatever it might be, we think I can just power through. I can muscle through. And we even will tell ourselves a story that needing that must mean we're not strong enough, especially if our counterparts don't need the same things, right? And I think this is also a part of societal conditioning that somehow like it's better to not need anything. And as strong, independent women, I mean, it's nice to know that we can rely on ourselves and we don't have to ask other people to help meet our needs. But the reality is that sometimes we might have to. So I think the reframe here is that we need to recognize that we are human. I know that we want to be superhuman, and I know that we believe that we should not have needs like a regular muggle should have. But guess what? We are humans. We might be doing superhuman things, but at the end of the day, we are still human and we still have needs. And having needs as a human is not weakness. Your needs are valid and worthy of being met just like anyone else's. So, like I said, we'll talk a lot more about that next week. Number 4 is hustle culture and perfectionism. So, this is kind of why we push through. Coming from the tech startup world, I remember always hearing that you need to keep your foot on the gas. You need to keep moving forward because if you stop, someone else is going to pass you up. If you slow down, there's always someone else, always a competitor out there running faster than you, and they're going to pass you. And I think that we have this fear, like a real fear that someone else is going to come in and take our job. And I think especially for moms, there's a real fear that if we have to take too many days off to take our kids to the doctor or to be home with them while they're sick or whatever we need to do for our children, that there's a younger, single, childless person, usually a man, who's willing to step in and take our jobs, right? And we kind of like have that fear in us. And I'm not saying it's not a legitimate concern. I'm not saying that it's not true. But what I think is important for us to recognize is the value that we bring to a workplace that is not replaceable. So the culture is always telling us, keep your foot on the gas or you're going to fall behind. So I think then we're like, oh my gosh, like I've got to push through. I've got to keep pushing, pushing, pushing. And we push through exhaustion and illness and burnout just so that we don't fall behind and just so that we don't get passed by. And so I think the opportunity for a reframe here is to recognize that rest and care are performance tools. We may need more rest than we did in our 20s, but that doesn't mean anything bad. It doesn't mean that we are weaker or less capable or that we are a drain on our organizations or higher maintenance or anything like that. It just means that we have learned what we need to show up at our best. And when we honor that, then we're able to continue showing up at our best. And so the 20-year-old just out of college can probably do all the late nights and early mornings and travel and everything like that. And that's amazing. They bring something different to the organization than you do. And that's great that we have all different people doing different things and bringing different kind of value to the organization. But if we are comparing ourselves to the younger version of ourselves, then we're never going to measure up. We have to just be real with where we're at today and meet ourselves there and stop denying the reality of what we need. Okay, and then the final one is this idea of needing permission. So this is kind of why we hold back. I think that oftentimes we're kind of waiting for someone else to tell us that it's okay to slow down, it's okay to step back, it's okay to say no, it's okay to take a break, it's okay to meet our own needs. And we kind of outsource our autonomy and our own decision making, our own trust in ourselves, in knowing what our body and our minds need, because we're looking externally and we're waiting for somebody else to say, hey, why don't you take a break? Hey, looks like you need a vacation. Hey, it's okay to rest, right? A lot of times we're looking for someone else to kind of tell us that. And we sit in this kind of victim seat. Our culture, our hustle culture that loves to go progress, 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 go, 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 hustle, 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 is not reliable. We cannot rely on other people to determine that for us. In adulthood, we need to be responsible for checking in with ourselves and determining when we have a need that's going unmet and then meet that need. And that's true for every adult. Obviously, we aren't all amazing at this. So, we can certainly help each other out. But again, we need to be responsible for that. We need to be responsible for ourselves and to trust ourselves to know whenever we have a need that we can meet it without anybody else telling us that it's okay. So, really, the reframe here or the thing to think about here is that you do not need permission. Your worthiness is enough. You are allowed to choose yourself right now. I just want to invite you to imagine something different. What if prioritizing yourself and taking care of yourself didn't take away from anyone else, but it actually made you better at everything else? What if your kids got the best of you because you weren't running on fumes? What if your team at work benefited because you were centered and clear instead of depleted? What if you could show up for your partner, your friends, your community from a place of wholeness? That is not selfish. That is caring for yourself and caring for those around you. And that is sustainable. So here is what I'd love to invite you to reflect on this week. Which of these 5 barriers that I talked about resonates most for you right now? What comes up whenever you go to take care of yourself, or when you just think about it, or you have a passing thought about it? Is it that one about not having enough time? Is it that one of that no one's given you permission? Is it that one that you're not supposed to have needs? What is it? The first thing we always do in any kind of program for transformation is to build awareness, to get aware about what's going on. And then what would shift for you if you tried on the reframe that I offered instead, even just for one small choice this week? So I want to encourage you to try it just once this week and see what happens. And I think that as we do it more and more, we get more in the practice, then it starts to become our default way of being and of showing up rather than feeling like it is totally out of the ordinary for us. So this is exactly why I created the Executive Mom Reset, because I really want to help executive moms really build a foundation for making themselves a priority without guilt, because I believe that you are worthy of care. And I believe that when we invest in women and moms, we get so much back. Our communities get better, our workplaces get better, our families and friendships get better. And so over the next several episodes, we're going to get even more and more practical about what this looks like day to day. So I have created a new program within the Executive Mom Reset. I have previously only offered this as a one-on-one coaching program. But what I would really like to do is bring together women, because I've done some group coaching programs where women come together and it is so powerful. And so I want to bring together women to talk about these kinds of things and to help to teach you the tools and the skills to really start taking care of yourself. Through coaching, through that program, we will also identify those barriers and work through them together so that you are supported by me and by a community of women. So if you're interested in joining us for that, it's called the Executive Mom Reset Foundations. The next program will begin October 21st, and you can head on over to coachleanna.com to learn more and register there. I hope to see you there. And so over the next several episodes, we're going to get even more practical about what this looks like day to day. But today, The thing I want you to carry with you is that taking care of yourself is not optional and you do not need to earn it. I'll see y'all next week. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're loving what you're learning on this podcast, I want to invite you to come join me for the Executive Mom Reset. We offer both one-on-one and group coaching formats, and our next group is starting in October 2025. I created the Executive Mom Reset to help high-achieving moms feel less anxious, more confident, and more in control of their lives. Instead of feeling like you're being pulled in 100 different directions, you'll learn how to pause, reset, and approach challenges with clarity and confidence. You'll stop running on autopilot, stop second-guessing yourself all the time, and stop letting stress, guilt, and overwhelm dictate your day. You'll walk away with the tools and the confidence that you can use every day to feel stronger, more empowered, and more in alignment with the life you want to be living. Head on over to CoachLeanna.com to learn more and to get signed up. I really hope to see you there.